for example, has pledged to reach net zero emissions by 2040, and it's also introduced a repair service. But the question is whether or not.
Imagine walking into a Zara store, passing by an old man in a plain jacket, and having no idea he owns the clothes you are wearing. His name is Amancio Ortega. Today, he is worth over $147 billion, but he started with absolutely nothing. When he was just 14 years old, he had to drop out of school. One afternoon, he watched his mother beg a local shop owner for food because they had no money. The owner told her no. That was the exact moment everything changed. Ortega promised himself that his family would never go hungry again. So, how did a poor kid with no money build the biggest clothing empire on earth? He did not do it by making better or more expensive clothes. He did it by breaking the biggest rule in business. Most fashion brands take 9 months to design, make, and sell a new shirt. Ortega found a way to do all of that in just 15 days. He realized the secret: people do not want luxury. They want speed. This is the story of how a poor tailor's assistant outsmarted the richest companies in the world and changed the way we shop forever.
Very nice stuff that you don't find anywhere else.
Zara, because they have fashion at low cost. Every time I go there, I find new things.
Let's just go to Zara. I know I can find something. Zara is very special and modern and fashion.
To understand how he did it, we have to go back to 1950. Ortega's father was a simple railway worker. Because of his father's job, the family had to move to a new city called A Coruña. Money was so tight that Ortega left school at just 14 years old to start working. His very first job was working as a shop hand for a local shirt maker called Gala. Inside that small shop, Ortega learned how to cut fabric and make clothes completely by hand. But he also noticed a massive problem with the way the fashion business worked. He saw that the clothing industry was incredibly slow. It took months for a factory to design a shirt, get the materials, sew it, and ship it to a store. By the time the clothes arrived, customers were already bored of the style. Ortega knew there had to be a faster way. In 1963, he saved enough money to start his own business. He called it Confecciones GOA. His first big product was a massive hit: quilted bathrobes. At the time, beautiful, high-quality bathrobes were a luxury item. Only wealthy people could afford them. Ortega did not try to invent a brand new product. Instead, he copied the luxury designs, bought cheaper fabrics, and made them quickly. Because he kept his costs low and worked fast, he sold his bathrobes for a fraction of the luxury price. They sold out instantly. This success proved his main theory: you do not need to sell expensive luxury. You just need to give normal people the latest trends immediately at a price they can afford. For the next 12 years, he focused completely on building his manufacturing power. Then in 1975, Ortega and his wife Rosalia Mera took a massive gamble. They opened their very first retail store in downtown A Coruña. They named it Zara. And this is where Ortega unleashed the secret system that would change the fashion world forever: the 15-day rule. The 15-day rule changed everything. In normal fashion companies, a designer creates a dress, sends it to a factory in another country, and waits months for it to arrive. Ortega did the opposite. He kept his factories close to home in Spain. If a new style became popular on television or in the streets, Zara designers drew it immediately. The nearby factories made it the next day, and trucks delivered it to stores within 2 weeks. But Ortega added another trick to his system: artificial scarcity. When you go into a regular store, you expect the same shirts to be there for months. At Zara, Ortega only made a small number of each item. He wanted customers to know one thing: if you see a shirt you like, you must buy it right now. If you wait until next week, it will be gone forever. This simple trick forced people to buy clothes instantly, and it made them visit Zara stores up to 15 times a year, just to see what was new. The strategy worked so well that Ortega began to buy up his competition. He created a massive parent company called Inditex. Soon, he did not just own Zara. He created or bought other massive brands like Bershka, Pull&Bear, Stradivarius, and Massimo Dutti. By 2009, the figure seemed to be around 4,607 stores and 92,301 employees, while Inditex crossed 6,000 stores later around 2012. But as the company became a global empire, Ortega did something very strange for a billionaire. He went completely into hiding. As his company grew into a global empire, Ortega did something very strange. He went completely into hiding. Most billionaires love fame. They do interviews, write books, and show off their wealth. Ortega did the exact opposite. For decades, the public did not even know what he looked like. In fact, not a single photograph of Ortega was ever published until 1999. Even today, he has only ever given interviews to 3 journalists in his entire life. He refuses to wear a tie. Instead, he wears a simple uniform every single day: a blue jacket, a white shirt, and gray pants. Ironically, none of the clothes he wears are actually made by Zara. But hiding from the public did not stop his wealth from exploding. In 2015, Ortega's company stock soared so high that he briefly passed Bill Gates to become the richest man in the world. Today, his net worth has grown to a massive $147 billion. So, what does a private billionaire do with all that cash? He buys up the world's most famous real estate. Through his investment company, Ortega bought skyscraper office buildings in Madrid, major luxury hotels in Miami, and shopping centers in New York and London. He even bought the massive buildings in Seattle that Amazon uses for its global headquarters. Yet, despite owning billions of dollars in real estate, 2 super yachts, and a private jet, Ortega still lives in a normal apartment with his wife in the same quiet city of A Coruña, where he started. And as he grew older, he started using his massive fortune to give back. He created his own foundation to fund education. He donated 20 million euros to help the poor, which was the largest single donation that charity had ever received. He also spent over 300 million euros to buy state-of-the-art cancer treatment machines for public hospitals all across Spain. More recently, when a massive and devastating storm hit Valencia, Ortega immediately set up a 100 million euro fund to help the families who lost everything. Amancio Ortega is now 90 years old. His story is proof that you do not need to come from a wealthy family, go to an expensive business school, or even have a high school diploma to build a global empire. He did not beat the luxury fashion industry by making better clothes. He beat them by realizing that the old way of doing business was too slow for the modern world. He shifted the entire goal of his business from quality to velocity. By the time other companies finished designing a shirt, Ortega had already sold it to millions of people. He conquered the fashion world because he managed to conquer time. Amancio Ortega's story proves that success isn't always about having more money, more education, or more connections. Sometimes it's about seeing an opportunity that everyone else misses and moving faster than the competition. From a poor tailor's assistant to the founder of the world's biggest fashion empire, he turned one simple idea into a fortune worth billions. The lesson? Your starting point doesn't determine your future. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Global Money Mindset for more inspiring business documentaries and success stories from the world's greatest entrepreneurs. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.